Hello and welcome to another whisky review, and this one's going to be a little bit of a recycled whisky review, a bit like what Aquavitae does, because there's almost none of this left. This is actually all that I've got. And I wasn't going to do a review of this one, but as I was sort of saying goodbye to this bottle, I thought that I really should, because it's quite a good one. This is the English Whisky Company, Chapter 14, Cask Strength. So you can't buy this stuff anymore. It is completely discontinued, although there's a good chance that you might be able to find some out there if you look hard enough. So the English Whisky Company Chapter 14 and 15 were the unpeated and peated, respectively, 5-year-old whiskies that they used to make back when they were doing the chapters. So these are the equivalent of the Chapter 6 and Chapter 11, which were the 3-year-old unpeated and peated whiskies. As always with the English Whisky Company, or at least back in those days, you get lots of transparency, lots of information on the label and the bottle. So Chapter 14, we know that this is from casks 726, 7, 8 and 9. So it's a vatting of just 4 casks. So they'd be well within the right of calling this small batch or something like that, but they haven't. It's not peated. It was distilled in September 2010 and bottled in October 2015. Limited edition, which really is the case, being just 4 casks, and it's 58.8% ABV. And it also comes in these really nice bottles. It's a shame that they don't go with a proper decanter style plug on these. It's just got the normal cork stopper, but still really nice, almost collectible English whisky bottle there. And I've just noticed that on the label here it does actually say that this is bottle number 67 out of 192. So when they say limited edition, it's 192 bottles, so it really is limited. So let's not waste any more time. Let's see what we've got in the glass before it evaporates and it's gone completely. As always with the English Whisky Company, this is non-chill filtered and natural colour. So on the nose I'm getting all the hallmarks of a really well made, high quality bourbon maturation whiskey. It's got some nice vanilla and lightly creamy vanilla, but also slightly austere in a way. It's a little bit drier than what you get out of a typical bourbon cask matured whiskey. Also getting something it's a little bit like mangoes and cream, as well as some more drier, harder mineral notes that I quite often get in English whisky, as well as a little hint of salty oak. There's definitely some appley notes in there as well, but again, it's not sweet and juicy, fruity, bright apple notes. It's more of a cider apple note. I do really love almost everything that the English Whisky Company produces, but I do think that their house style tends to be that little bit more challenging and possibly not that accessible, especially to beginners. But it is an unmistakable style, and it's definitely a high quality one at that. There's also quite a lot of confectionery notes on the nose. In particular, I'm getting something that's a little bit like those foam banana sweets that you used to get when you were a kid, and a little effervescent note, a little bit like love hearts on the nose as well. It is a lovely fruitiness throughout the experience, but at every turn it's balanced by these dry, austere, more challenging notes. It's definitely not a simple nose. And there's another thing that I really have to mention that I always get on the nose of this one, and that's a little hint of butyric. And by butyric I mean something that's a little bit akin to the sort of smell that you get in off milk. And that sounds horrendous, but there's only a little hint of it in here. It's definitely there, and I think it really adds to the experience. So let's see how it tastes. So again, on the palate, there's more of that light, creamy vanilla note from the bourbon cask, and also a little hint of that lemon love heart note that I got on the nose as well. And just like I mentioned on the nose, there's more austere, mineral, gravelly, chalky, dry, very mineral notes on the palate as well. It's something that I really associate with the English whisky distillery, and it's something that I really like. Something else that I really like about the palate on this one is that you can really taste that it's got a lovely, faintly farmy and faintly smoky as well, cereally gristy note. You can really taste the barley that goes into this. I think a combination of that real gristiness and the mineral quality possibly from the water that they use at the English Whisky Company, it really gives it a sense of terroir and really ties the product to the place, which is always nice. As for a finish, I'm going to say long, creamy, malty, pleasantly oaky, and surprisingly mature for a whisky that's only 5 years old. I'm going to give this whisky a B+. So what would I say that this whisky is similar to for anyone that might be thinking of trying this? I'd say that there's definitely a strong similarity there to Bruichladdich products, something like the Laddie 10. Not so much the classic Laddie that we can get now, but if anyone remembers the Laddie 10 from a few years ago, that always reminds me a little bit of this one. Also has to be said that this Chapter 14 5-year-old unpeated English whisky, it is definitely similar to the Chapter 6 3-year-old unpeated whisky from the English Whisky Company, if anyone's tried that, but it is definitely noticeably more mature. And you've only had an extra 2 years in the cask with this one, but you can really tell that it is a much more mature whisky. I have also tried this cask strength Chapter 14 directly against the regular 46% ABV Chapter 14 from the English Whisky Company, and I'd say that they are, even though they're not from the same casks, they are remarkably similar whiskies, to the point where I'd say that the tasting notes are almost identical. If you're considering buying either the 46% or the cask strength version of this whisky, I'd say that the only difference really is that with this cask strength whisky you're getting the extra flexibility of being able to drink it at whatever ABV you want to. So how does this whisky compare to the modern lineup at the English Whisky Company? Well, I think there's a bit of a gap in their range now, because I used to really like these chaptered releases, especially the sort of core range, the Chapter 6, 9, 11, 14 and 15. And it's a bit sad that they're a thing of the past now, because in the current lineup you've got the original release, English Whisky Original, which is their bourbon matured, unpeated, sort of entry-level product. And that's a good whisky. Between that and the peated version of their entry-level bottlings, I would say that the unpeated version is a really good whisky and it's worth the money, which I wouldn't necessarily say about the peated version, if I'm honest. But compared to this Chapter 14, that entry-level, the original English whisky, is only 43%, and there is a world of difference between 43% and 46%. And I can see why the English Whisky Company have chosen to do that, because if you're looking at an entry-level product, maybe marketing that to the more price-conscious buyers, or possibly not even whisky drinkers, you don't want them trying something that's bottled at 46 plus and going away thinking that it's a harsh product. So I can understand why they've gone for 43%, save a bit of cost, and also make it a bit more accessible. But for the real whisky drinkers of us out there, I would say that the 43% version doesn't quite cut it when you compare it to the Chapter 14. As for the new 11-year-old from the English whisky in the bright yellow or gold label, I'd say that isn't really a fair replacement either, because the new 11-year-old, it's got much more cask influence, and it's much less of a straightforward unpeated bourbon matured whisky. It's really not the same sort of thing, although it is very, very good. It's also a shame that the English Whisky Distillery have decided to stop doing these cask strength, almost decanter presentation variations of their standard core products as well. It's always nice to have that option, but it's not an option that we've got anymore, at least not regularly. So I do feel like, with this one being gone now, there is a little bit of a gap in their lineup. It's something that I'm not going to be able to replace, which is a shame. Although saying that, there's still lots of really high quality products in the English Whisky Distillery's lineup. But if you do see this one for sale anywhere or at auction at a sensible price, I'd highly recommend it. Cheers.